Hey, welcome to Store Brand Cartoons. I'm Tio, and this is my mom.
Hi, I'm Mom.
And your mom, too.
And you. That's creepy. Oh my god!
Nope, we're rolling with it. So today, today, we are talking about the Iron Giant, which isn't obscure, really. It is more of a cult classic. I don't think it was as successful with its initial run as it has become over time.
What year did this come out?
I don't know.
1999.
Yeah. I knew it was like super late 90s.
Classic.
But yeah, it's
You were only 3 years old.
Yeah, and I grew up watching this movie because it was available at our local library.
And we did a lot of VHS movies from the local library.
We did. And we did not watch the theatrical version of this movie today. We watched...
There's a theatrical version?
Yes, it's 3 minutes shorter than the version we watched.
What did they take out?
I believe... Do you remember the nightmare sequence in the movie where the giant is dreaming about his time as a weapon?
Yeah.
That was not in the theatrical version.
Really?
Yeah.
What, they think it'd be too scary for kids?
I have no idea. But yeah, so this movie is like we said, it's from 1999. It's directed, and I think from what I saw in the credits, it was written by Brad Bird, who is also the director of both Incredibles movies and Ratatouille. So he's got kind of an impressive resume when it comes to animation, and it's just generally a good movie. And one of the reasons I wanted to do it for this week is because Vin Diesel's in it as the voice of the Giant. And a movie that's coming up pretty soon that I'm excited for, that is relevant to the channel because it's a comic book movie, is Bloodshot, starring Vin Diesel. So for like this week and probably next week, we're watching Vin Diesel movies.
So it's come a long way as far as Vin Diesel, like with Vin Diesel being Bloodshot, and instead of just being a voice, because the Giant voice is very similar to the Groot voice. So, I mean...
Very similar to his Groot voice, obviously. In fact, the character in general is very similar to Groot.
Very.
With just his,
childlike
personality, but still, has, this old soul sort of feeling to him. Especially with the original adult Groot from the first Guardians movie, who's my favorite Groot.
Yeah, mine too. But, self-sacrificing... understands fragility and
has that general respect for life sort of thing. The whole movie, as far as I can tell, it's set in Cold War era America, and the whole movie, as far as I can tell, is itself a metaphor for paranoia and distrust of the different or the foreign, driving people to do crazy things. Because the villain of the movie, or antagonist of the movie, is this hyper paranoid government agent who is called in after some guy claims to have seen this unbelievable thing, which is the Giant. And this kid, Hogarth, the main character, is spending the whole movie trying to hide the Giant from the government because he knows that the Giant doesn't mean any harm, and that he's just this living thing who just happened to end up on our planet.
And he's teaching the Giant, how to be, what being human is, basically. There's a small conversation about souls, and souls never die, and that's something that the Iron Giant itself daydreams about. And so it's almost like it's making that human connection, what it's like to have feelings and stuff like that. So, I only have one. Tio said that, we're apolitical on this channel, so I'm not political, but I will say that it was very early on, the whole guns are bad indoctrination thing. There was a conversation about, guns kill people. No, guns don't kill people. People who use guns inappropriately kill people. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah. And for me personally, the way I interpret it is guns are kind of just a stand-in for weapons in general.
Violence.
Because the climax of the movie revolves around Hogarth convincing the giant that he has the right to choose who he wants to be, and that he doesn't have to be a gun. Because the giant has, you know, these dreams about his life before he landed on Earth, because he's like an alien robot. And these dreams reveal that, like, he was a weapon built for conquest until he got a dent in his head landing on Earth that made him forget his programming.
Yeah.
And
so he had like robot amnesia for the first half of the movie.
It's kind of like if you've seen Bumblebee, it's a little similar to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he like spends time on Earth, just learning to be a person essentially, and then at the end of the movie, you know, the government comes along and tries to destroy him. Kid gets hurt. Giant gets mad, starts, you know, shooting lasers all over the place. And then Hogarth tells him, you know, you don't have to be a gun. You don't have to be a weapon. You can choose who and what you want to be. And so he chooses not to, you know, be an instrument for violence.
Well, and it wasn't like Monsters versus Aliens where like the government just goes in and annihilates everything just because it's an alien.
Yeah. That was done for comedy.
Yeah, yeah. There was you know, compassion in the leadership of the military, and once they realized that this idiot who was super overcharged was being an idiot and super overcharged, they, you know, were putting the clampers down on it and, you know, stopping all the violence and stuff like that. So I mean, there was a good message that the military is not just a bunch of brainless killers. It, you know, so there was that. They did a good job of juxtaposing the you know, guns are bad but guns have a purpose kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't a complete, you know, anti-gun message.
Yeah. And I guess now that we've kind of talked about themes and story a bit, next is the way the movie looks is really good. One thing that I did kind of notice about it, going back and watching it as an adult now, is the character designs. You can kind of recognize animation directors by the way characters are designed. Because if you were to make any of the characters in this movie into like a 3-dimensional model, you could see it in an Incredibles movie. Like, in fact, I think there are 2 old guys in this movie who are at the train tracks where they straight up used those character designs and probably the same old guy voices in the Incredibles. Because if you've ever seen the first Incredibles movie, there's this part right at the end after they beat the giant robot in the Incredibles where they're just these 2 old guys off to the side, and they're like, that's how you do it, that's old school, like the old school, you know. Like, and I never knew what that was supposed to be when I was younger.
It's probably a reference back to Iron Giant, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but then those 2 old guys in Iron Giant are probably a reference to 2 real people. I just haven't done the research to figure out who those guys are. But yeah, I'm pretty sure, and it seems like Brad Bird just kind of puts those guys in his movies. So
that might be his signature move.
Maybe. But yeah, I'm assuming that those are based on 2 guys that he actually knows. Or knew at some point. Sure. I'm not sure. But yeah, so yeah, but like I said, like, you could take character designs from this movie, make them 3-dimensional, and they would look like Incredibles characters. Or Ratatouille characters.
As far as the animation is concerned, when it first opens up, it's like, holy crap, this is like a throwback to Thumbelina. I mean, like, that's the kind of artwork that you're kind of looking at.
It is very Don Bluth-esque.
It is. And the characters are very simple. Like, all of the drawings are very simple, but they're very good. I mean...
Very expressive.
Yes.
Very expressive character animation.
Yes, and the little boy... There's a part where he drinks espresso, and I'll just leave it at that. It's hilarious.
You get bullied at school because they think that you think you're smarter than all the other kids, but I don't think I'm smarter than all the other kids. I just do the stupid homework, and everybody just did the stupid homework.
Like, it was just funny.
Yeah, that's a really good part of the movie.
And one of the other reasons why I liked the fact that they set it in a historical period, is that to me, it looks like the people that made it don't expect kids to be stupid. You know, like you can have if nothing else, it opens up dialogue about what was that era, why was it like that. It's a peek back in history, and there was a beatnik character, and there was the single mom character, and the government at that time, and I just feel like it's a good way to open up talking.
Yeah, it's a good way to like you said, like a peek back through time at like the 50s era sort of stuff. One thing that I kind of liked was the old school comic book references that were in the movie.
Yeah.
Because there's one of the key like plot points of the movie is that Hogarth is showing the Giant some comic books, and like he's showing him things like the Spirit and stuff like that, and then like they come across an issue of Action Comics with Superman on the cover, and he's like, oh, this is Superman, he's the good guy. He's like, sure, he's famous now, but he started off just like you, crash landed on Earth and having to learn his way around. And the Giant kind of internalizes like that image of Superman for himself, and when he decides that he doesn't want to hurt people and that he wants to help people, he envisions himself as Superman, which I thought was really cool, like using, like not really going super in depth with it, just using the general idea of a classic character like that to communicate one of the movie's core messages. Is really cool to me.
Yeah, you get to choose what kind of hero you want to be.
Yeah, so this was definitely a really good one.
Yeah.
There's a reason that everyone who grew up with this movie, especially those who make content for the internet, will talk about it a lot. And it definitely still holds up. Obviously, as a period piece, it is going to hold up because it's already a point in time looking further back into the past, so it's like era-based stuff doesn't really come into play, but like the animation,
it has a timeless message.
Yeah, and a timeless feel. The animation, the voice acting, like all of it is, it still looks really good even today. And I will say that the way they blended the 3D CG with the traditional 2D animation.
Yeah, you would never know there's like a difference,
Yeah, because the Giant himself is entirely 3D animation, which I think was probably done out of necessity, because like how do you animate something that massive and make him move as quickly as the small things? Especially when he's very simplistically designed, but he's still got a lot of details.
And there's so many subtle, like, they pay a great attention to detail, and by that I mean like there was just one part where like the robot's picking the boy up, and in other movies the boy would be like, oh, I'm being picked up ever so slowly. No, the Giant picks him up and the boy gets slammed down into his hand because he's going up so fast the G-forces just pull him down. And so like they pay attention to, and it's funny,
and all the Giant is doing
is very subtle.
Is just standing up like a normal person. Like he's just standing up at the way you would stand up from crouching down, but because he's so big and he's what the kid is standing on, like that's literally the ground moving beneath his feet, so the kid just gets pushed down and you just hear this oof as he gets pushed into the hand. So
I mean, like there's a lot of attention to detail about stuff like that. Like they pay attention to how it would actually happen, and it's not this fairy tale. Like I think of, like, I always reference back to like a Thumbelina thing. Like if Thumbelina were in somebody's hand, it would be going up slowly and she'd be like her hair waving in the breeze kind of thing. This is just, it's far more realistic, and which I think makes it funnier, because that kind of stuff is just funny.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Good movie. This is, I think, the first one I'm going to just generally recommend for pretty much everybody.
Oh yeah.
This is a good movie.
Oh yeah.
It's a good family movie too.
Yeah.
Because the past 3 movies we've watched, I wouldn't recommend just anyone pick it up. Like Road to El Dorado, that's for if you're in the mood for something a little goofier that you really don't need to think about that much.
Yeah, and it's got a lot more adult themes in it.
Yeah, the My Hero movie, that's mostly for superhero and anime fans. And 5 centimeters per second.
Although it's not a bad movie. I mean, like, I'm not an anime person, and I would watch that movie.
Yeah, but you do like superheroes, though.
I
little
do,
bit.
yeah.
And then 5 centimeters per second, that one's just good to sit and make fun of.
Oh.
So if you're the type of person who would hate watch something like like apparently my mom and I are, I didn't even know that we were, but yeah, but for this one, I will say, like, this is just a quality movie that I will just generally recommend to just about anyone.
Yeah. So,
if you think that this video directed you to an interesting movie, it did. Hit the subscribe button. That's in order. I have been Tio.
And I've been Mom.
But we're not anymore. So we'll see you next week.
Okay, goodbye.